Hey everybody, it's Monster and I'm back again with another headphone review. Today I am going to be discussing the ZMF Aeolus. I'm not really sure how to say this name. One person tells me one thing, somebody tells me something else. I'm going to say Aeolus and we'll just take it from there. So, this is the ZMF Aeolus. It is an open back design. The cups are all wood, handmade in Chicago by ZMF. These are based upon these headphones, which are the ZMF Atticus. This is my pair right here. Now this, as you can see, is a fully closed back design. I first heard the Atticus back, I believe it was 2017, Can Jam, in January, give or take. And as soon as I put them on, I was blown away. I put them on, and I heard this thunderous bass, and I was like, oh my God. But my previous experiences with bass-heavy headphones taught me that with that slam, I was going to get really poor recessed mids. And when the guitars and vocals kicked in the very first time I heard the Atticus, I just knew right away I had to buy this headphone. And I did. So they have taken the same driver from the Atticus and they've put it into an open back design in the Aeolus. So everything that you would think that would apply to an open back version of the Atticus holds true. With its open back design on the Aeolus, you get more soundstage, slightly less bass impact, better detail retrieval. Because the mid bass isn't hitting as hard, you're able to hear the sub bass even deeper. And of course, those beautiful mids that just lend themselves so well to vocals and guitar. So let's start with the comfort and build quality of these headphones. As I mentioned before, these are hand-tooled solid wood cups. Okay, you don't see that very often. Most headphones are plastic or fiber carbon or what have you. These are solid, handcrafted wood. ZMF makes each pair by hand, and it's like an heirloom piece. This is definitely not a headphone that you're going to want to be taking out on the street. My Atticus, even though it's a closed back, has never left my home, because I just don't want to get the wood scratched on it. The Aeolus is incredibly comfortable and have seriously lightened the weight between the Atticus and the Aeolus. You put these on, and it's almost like a pillow sitting on your head. And you can adjust, I don't know if you can see that, but you can adjust, if you got a big head, you raise this part right here. And if you can go all the way up to the top. And if you got a small head, kind of like me, you go all the way down to the bottom. It has a detachable cable, as you can see. There's no cable attached right now. And it comes with 2 sets of pads. Now, about the pads aren't just for the comfort. The pads can seriously change the way these headphones sound. You can opt for the stock pads that come with it, and they have a bassier, warmer sound. Or you can change them to the other pads, and it really makes it almost like a neutral sounding headphone. So you can change the pads depending upon your mood. If you find it too bass heavy, you switch the pads. If you find it too bass light, switch the pads back. It's really quite interesting. And it also comes with this carrying case that is hard shell plastic, and it opens up, and you can see there inside, this is really, I mean, they've gone all out on the way it's presented, and its case, and the workmanship, and the craftsmanship, and of course, the sound. Now, these headphones start at $1,000, and you go all the way up to the limited edition wood types, and I believe those are $1,300. So they're not cheap headphones, but compared to other headphones, in the same price or even more expensive, these really hold their own. So let's get into the sound of these. Okay. First and foremost, these are a warm headphone. Okay? They have a tremendous amount of slam. If these had come out first, before the Atticus, everybody would be raving about how in the hell did they get so much slam out of an open back headphone. But because this is the second version of the same driver, everybody's saying, well, they have slightly less slam than the Atticus. And that's true, they do. But to my ears, it's a welcome change. Because at times, and I love my Atticus, don't get me wrong, but there are times when I have felt like the Atticus could use a little less slam. Sometimes it was like, wow, this is crazy, and I want to hear everything else. And sometimes it got in the way a little bit. The Aeolus fixes that. It brings down the slam, but not to the degree where you're going to be missing that boom, 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 boom. And it keeps the mids. The mids. ZMF is just known for their mids. The mids are phenomenal. They have so much texture. Guitars, electric guitars have so much chunk. It's just, you can just feel it. You can hear it. It feels live. Acoustic guitars sound super sweet. So if if you're listening to some folk music, some acoustic stuff, it's hard to describe if you've never heard a pair of ZMF headphones because, again, as I mentioned before, usually when you have a bass slamming headphone, the mids are trash. And these are not trash. These are just super epic. The highs are rolled off, yet still detailed. Does that make any sense to you? You have to hear it to understand it, but they're not veiled. They're crisp, they're clear, they're clean, but they're rolled off. I don't know how he does it, but he does. The soundstage, I wouldn't say that the soundstage of the Aeolus is expansive, because it's not. It's an intimate sounding headphone, but you still get a good degree of width. I noticed on a couple songs during my couple weeks with these that I was getting a really good sense of height in the staging as well. So I was hearing vocals up here and the guitar down here. There's good three-dimensionality. There's good three-dimensionality to the sound. I really can't say anything bad about the way these things sound. To me, they are a phenomenal sounding headphone. I've tried them with all of my typical genres. I always talk about metal. These are killer with metal. They're killer with rock. They're killer with blues. I was listening to some blues earlier before I started up this video. And Howlin' Wolf, some old Howlin' Wolf. Trance music, Sybient, that slam just is so satisfying. There's really, I don't listen to a lot of jazz or classical on headphones, so, I just want to get that out there. But for rock, metal, blues, trance, Sybient, acoustic, folk, reggae, stuff that I listen to pretty frequently, it does it all. It's really, really a phenomenal sounding headphone. So how does it compare to the Atticus? If you've heard the Atticus and you liked it, you're going to love the Aeolus. Because tonality, I can't hear any difference at all. The tone, they're the same driver, and to me, it's just the tone is identical. The Aeolus brings out the width of the staging. It adds some height to it. It has a little bit more air between the instruments. It has better imaging. It's, in my opinion, it's just a better headphone. Now, you are sacrificing a small bit of slam, but, you know, it went from a 12 to like a 9.9. It is, you're still getting a tremendous amount of slam, so don't worry about losing that famous Atticus slam when you switch over to the open back. So let's talk about amping these headphones. The Aeolus are fairly sensitive, but they are 300 ohms. You can get sound out of them from a mobile phone. I wouldn't recommend that because you're really doing a disservice to your ears and the headphones themselves, but you can get sound out of them. Now, if you're familiar with the various headphone forums, and you read them frequently like I do, you know that ZMF headphones typically prefer tubes. And the Aeolus is no exception. The best I have heard the Aeolus sound is through my Glen OTL. I will say that for my personal preferences, a neutral to bright revealing tube roll is the best that I have heard it sound. If you have a lot of warm tubes, it's not really the best match for an already warm sounding headphone. So I'm running some C3Gs, and those Siemens C3Gs, and those are very detailed, bright tubes, and they sound beautiful with the Aeolus. I have read about people who are hesitant to get into tubes, and I get that. Okay, I mean, I'm kind of a tube noob myself, but I ask a lot of questions and I read a lot and I ask advice before I buy tubes and what tubes go good with other tubes. So I'm happy to report that if you don't want to mess with tubes, ZMF headphones, the Atticus, the Aeolus, the Auteur, and the Verite, those are the four that I have here right now with me. All of them sound great through vintage receivers. Now, I've talked about vintage receivers in some of my other video reviews, like my AKG K240 Sextet review. Those are killer on vintage receivers. I wouldn't say that the Aeolus is killer like the Sextet is, but it is an excellent, excellent match. You're going to want to get a bright vintage receiver, because not all vintage receivers are created equally. The ones that I have that are the brightest are my Onkyo and my Kenwood and my Akai. Those are my three brightest ones, and that matches well with the warm nature of the Aeolus. So you don't need to go out and spend a lot of money on a dedicated solid state amp, nor do you need to mess with tubes to enjoy ZMF headphones. You can get yourself a really good vintage receiver. 40 to 60, 75 watts is more than you need. On my Sansui back here, 881, I can turn it up to about 830 on the dial. And I still got all the way over to play with. And it's blasting. And I'm getting about 99.9% of the same slam out of the 881 as I'm getting out of my Glen tube amp. Where the Glen has the advantage is in the micro detail, the 3D imaging, and the staging. You're still getting that on the old Sansui, but not to the degree. Okay, but we're talking about a 50-year-old plus 1967 is when it came out. A 50-year-old plus receiver that cost me $75 versus a handcrafted, state-of-the-art modern tube amp that cost me a lot more than $75. You know, when you factor in the tubes, it was 10 times that plus. So you don't need tubes. You can get a vintage receiver. If you don't want to get a vintage receiver, I would recommend a high power neutral solid state headphone amp. Now I've got a Gilmore Light Mark II, which is a very fine sounding dedicated headphone amp, and it works wonders with some of my headphones. But to my ears, it just doesn't, the bass response isn't there. The imaging and the staging is there, but the bass just doesn't thunder like I know it can. So I would recommend for the Aeolus tubes or a vintage receiver. Now this is a area that I don't typically cover in my reviews because it's not pertinent. But with ZMF headphones, I feel I should talk about ZMF headphones customer service. ZMF makes all their headphones by hand in Chicago. They offer a lifetime warranty on their drivers. Let me repeat that. A lifetime warranty on their drivers. If you buy a pair of headphones from ZMF and you have it for 5 years and suddenly the driver dies, you send it back to ZMF and they will fix it on their dime. No questions asked. They will fix it. Now, obviously you can't dunk it in a vat of boiling water and it, but as long as you take care of your headphones and something goes wrong, they will fix it for as long as you have the headphone. And I don't know, maybe there's other headphone manufacturers that do that. I don't know about them. And, I've had experiences with other headphones from other companies and their drivers fail. And they offer a warranty. I won't mention the name, but if you go back and look at some of my other reviews, you'll figure it out. They offered a 1-year warranty. And I had 2 drivers fail within 9 months, and I had to sell it because the warranty was going to run out. And that really upset me. ZMF lifetime warranty. In addition, the owner of ZMF, Zach, is an incredibly cool guy. He's just a very nice, cool guy. My Atticus, right here, is the only one like it in the world. This wood right here is Bacote. And I met Zach at Can Jam in New York a couple years ago. And I asked him if he would make me a pair out of zebra wood. And he said, okay. And I was really excited because I had another pair of headphones made out of zebra wood, and I really liked the tiger striping look. And he sent me some photos of the zebra wood that he had, and it kind of underwhelmed me. I wasn't really thrilled. It didn't look the same as my other headphones. So I just told him, I said, yeah, no, it's just not floating my boat. So he sent me more samples of other types of wood that he had, and he had Bacote. And these caught my eye. And I know that the timber in Bacote is really good. It's a hardwood. It slams harder and it's got a quicker decay. And I said, yeah, those are good. And so he made me a pair of Bacote Atticus. And they're the only Bacote Atticus in the whole world, as far as I know. I don't know any other headphone manufacturer in the world that would take the time to send you pictures of the wood they have and work with you. I mean, it's mind-blowing, the customer service that ZMF offers. So I highly recommend supporting an American company, supporting a company that takes pride in their work, a company that stands behind their work with a lifetime warranty. Just a great family. I've met his wife. She's lovely. He's lovely. They are just, I can't say enough good stuff about the Murdochs. So, in closing, Do I like the Aeolus? No. I love the Aeolus. And I wish I could afford a pair of Aeolus, but I can't. Because Zach has other headphones that I love even more. And I'll get into that in my next review. But I feel for the price of between $1,000 and $1,300, even though that is a lot of money for a pair of headphones, what you're getting with the customer service and the sound quality, the build quality, the craftsmanship, these are a friggin' steal. These sound so good. They are warm, they're punchy, they're musical, they are laid back, but they're not boring. I could just go on and on about how wonderful these headphones sound. And, you know, Zach's not paying me to say that. I was a customer first and foremost. Let me just get that out of the way. I'm not a shill. I'm not, you know, getting paid to say this. I'm not getting to keep these. I got to send these back on Thursday. So I'm just telling you how I hear it. And these are great sounding headphones. So in closing, if you have heard the Atticus and you liked what you heard, but you wanted just a little less bass and a little bit more detail and a little bit more staging and better imaging, you need to go buy these, because that's what these are. These are exactly what I just described. If you've not heard the Atticus, these are killer for blues, rock, metal, reggae, trance, Sybian. They're just stellar. And you don't need a mega amp to drive them. Again, tubes work the best, but you could go pluck, like I said, I got my Sansui 881 for $75, and it sounds phenomenal with these headphones. So that wraps it up. This has been Monster with my review of the ZMF Aeolus. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the area below, and I'll try to do my best to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.